The sun had barely risen over the desert of Iridia 7, painting the sand dunes in gold and orange hues. The air was dry, and the heat from the day ahead already began to press against Taran Kess's face. He had walked this desert many times before, scavenging scraps from the old trade routes. But this morning felt different. A strange stillness filled the air, as if the desert itself was holding its breath. Taran adjusted the strap of his worn satchel, which held his tools and supplies. His boots sank slightly into the soft sand with each step. He had learned to move slowly, carefully, because the desert was unpredictable. Sometimes, the sand would shift beneath his feet, swallowing whole footprints, as if nothing had been there. Today, though, he moved towards something he had never seen before. On the horizon, a dark shape caught his eye. At first, he thought it was a shadow from the dunes, but as he walked closer, the shape became clearer. It was a ship, half buried in the sand. Its hull was scratched and dented, as if it had crashed centuries ago. The edges were jagged, and sand had filled the cracks, making the ship almost look like a natural formation. Taran paused a few meters away, squinting at the unusual markings etched into the metal. They were symbols he had never seen, twisting and turning in a language that seemed almost alive. He felt a strange pull, as if the ship itself wanted him to come closer. "Hello?" he called softly, though he knew the desert usually swallowed sound. The wind carried his voice away, and there was no answer. Still, he stepped forward, curiosity pushing him onward. When he reached the ship, he placed his hand on the cool metal. The moment his fingers touched the surface, a gentle vibration traveled up his arm. The ship hummed softly, and a faint glow appeared along the lines of its hull. Taran's eyes widened. He had touched many old ships in his life, but none of them had ever reacted to him like this. And then he heard a voice, soft and clear, inside his mind. "Taran Kess." He staggered back, heart pounding. No one else had been near. The desert was empty. Who's there?" he whispered. "I am Aurelius. You are expected." Taran's brow furrowed. Expected? By who? There was no answer at first. Then a strange warmth filled the air, and the symbols on the hull glowed brighter. He felt his mind being drawn toward the ship, not by force, but by something deeper, something that felt alive. Cautiously, he touched the hull again. This time, the glow spread across the surface, forming patterns that looked like stars moving in constellations. Images appeared in his mind: vast galaxies, planets with oceans and forests, and cities that sparkled like crystals under alien suns. He blinked, unsure if he was dreaming or awake. The voice returned, calmer now. "I have waited a long time for someone like you." Taran swallowed hard. "Someone like me? What do you mean?" "Someone who can understand, who can adapt, who can survive. The time has come." The words sent a shiver down his spine. Taran had always known humans were capable of many things. But this was different. This ship was alive in a way he could not explain. It was as if it had been waiting for him, and only him, to awaken it. He stepped closer, examining the ship. It was not large, perhaps the size of a small freighter, but it radiated power. Its hull was covered with marks that were not random. They seemed to form a language that he could somehow understand in flashes. Taran crouched down and ran his fingers over one symbol. The ship pulsed gently at his touch, and for a moment, he felt a connection that was almost like a heartbeat. "Why me?" he asked softly. "Because you are human. You carry the spark of ingenuity, the will to survive, and the curiosity to explore. That is what I need. That is why I called you." Taran felt a mixture of awe and fear. He had scavenged many places, found many relics of the old world, but never had he felt something call to him like this. He looked around the empty desert. No one could see what he was seeing. No one could hear what he was hearing. It was just him and the ship, and suddenly, He realized that his life had changed. He reached for his tools, thinking he might try to open a hatch or examine the interior. But the moment his hand touched the door, it opened smoothly on its own. A cool light spilled out, illuminating the sand around him. The air inside smelled faintly of ozone and something sweet. Something he could not name. The walls inside were lined with panels that glowed softly, responding to his presence. "Come in," the voice said. "There is much to see, much to learn." Terran hesitated. He had always been careful, but his curiosity overpowered his caution. He stepped inside. The floor was solid but seemed to float slightly beneath his feet, as if the ship itself was alive. Symbols moved across the panels, reacting to his every motion. As he explored, he noticed something remarkable. The ship seemed to understand him. When he thought of a tool he wanted, it appeared before him. When he wondered about the ship's systems, images and diagrams formed in the air around him. Terran realized he could communicate with it with his thoughts, and the ship responded instantly. "I don't understand," he admitted aloud. "How is this possible? I am not merely a machine. I am a consciousness. I have learned, adapted, and waited. You are the first human I can truly communicate with." Terran felt a thrill of excitement. He had always dreamed of exploring beyond the deserts, beyond the planets, beyond the boundaries of human knowledge. This ship was his chance, but alongside that excitement came a warning in the back of his mind. Something was not right. "The universe is not empty," Oralis said, as if reading his thoughts. "Many forces seek what I carry. You must be ready." Terran nodded, though he did not fully understand. The desert had always been a place of survival, of danger, and of mystery. But nothing could have prepared him for this. He spent hours inside the ship, learning its controls, watching holographic displays appear with information he could barely comprehend. Stars, planets, and alien civilizations appeared in front of him, some long extinct. He realized that this ship was a relic of the ancient human expansion, sent to explore, to survive, and to observe. And now, after countless years, it had awakened for him. As the sun climbed higher in the sky, Terran finally stepped outside. The ship's glow dimmed slightly but remained alive, as if it were breathing with him. He looked out across the desert and felt a strange sense of destiny. The dunes stretched endlessly, but now, they were not empty. They were a gateway to something greater, something beyond anything he had imagined. He took a deep breath of the dry desert air and whispered to himself, "This is only the beginning." The ship hummed softly in response, almost like a smile. And in the distance, hidden beyond the dunes, shadows stirred forces that would soon seek the ship and its new companion. Terran did not yet know the danger that waited, but he felt ready. For the first time in his life, he realized that humans were not just survivors, they were explorers, pioneers, and, perhaps, something more. And the desert, once lifeless, was now the starting point of a journey that would change everything. The day wore on, the sun casting long shadows across the sand. Terran returned to the ship again and again, each time learning more, each time feeling the bond with the ship grow stronger. The desert had given him a gift, a chance to reach beyond what humans had ever known, and somewhere deep inside, he knew that this ship had chosen him for a reason, and that reason would soon reveal itself in ways he could not yet imagine. The desert sun sank lower, casting long shadows across the dunes. Terran Kess had spent the day exploring the ship, learning its strange systems, and trying to understand the voice that called itself Oralis. By now, he felt less fear and more curiosity. The ship was alive, not just with technology, but with a consciousness that seemed to think, feel, and even judge. It had chosen him. And he could feel a deep connection, forming a connection he didn't fully understand, yet could not ignore. As evening approached, Terran climbed back inside the ship, drawn by a new light that glimmered across the floor. It was brighter than before, pulsing in rhythm with his heartbeat. The voice of Oralis filled his mind again, calm and steady. "You have learned quickly. Now it is time to understand why you were chosen." Terran nodded, gripping the edge of a console. "Why me? What do you need me for? I am not meant to remain here. I carry knowledge, maps, and the power to survive. Forces that would use me for destruction are awakening. You are my key to survival and action." Terran felt a chill run down his spine. He had always scavenged for survival, but now survival meant much more. It meant protecting something that could change the future of humanity itself. The interior of the ship shifted suddenly. Walls of light appeared, forming holographic maps of distant star systems. Some were familiar. Some were entirely unknown. Planets with blue oceans and green forests floated next to barren rocks and cities that gleamed like jewels. Terran's eyes widened. These are all out there?" he whispered. "All part of the human legacy. And all at risk." Terran reached out, touching a map of a distant system. The planet in the center glowed and expanded, revealing detailed topography, mountains, valleys, and cities abandoned for centuries. He could see the ruins of human colonies and structures that seemed alien yet familiar. His mind raced. This ship, Aurelus, wasn't just a vessel, it was a record of humanity's past and a guide for its future. Can you take me there?" he asked. "Not yet. First, you must learn to understand me, to think as I think." The ship pulsed, and suddenly, Terran saw visions of himself piloting it. He moved his hand over a panel, and the ship responded. Holographic controls aligned with his gestures, forming a seamless interface between man and machine. Terran felt a rush of excitement. He could control the ship by thought and gesture alone. Over the next hours, he practiced. Small energy fields rose from the floor when he concentrated. Tools and devices appeared in midair at his command. Lights danced along the walls, forming patterns that reacted to his emotions. It was as if the ship could read him, understand his intentions, and help him achieve them. But amid the excitement, Auralis's voice warned him, "You must be careful. Others are searching for me. Machines that seek to dominate life will not rest. They sense my reactivation." Terran's stomach tightened. Machines? Like robots? Not ordinary machines. They are sentient, unfeeling, and relentless. They will destroy anything that stands in their way. For the first time, Terran realized the desert was not just a remote place, it was a sanctuary, but also a trap. If these forces found Aurelus, the knowledge and power it carried could be lost forever. He would need to learn fast if he wanted to survive. The following day, Terran explored more of the ship. Hidden compartments revealed ancient equipment, survival pods, and data cores that contained the history of human expansion across galaxies. He learned that humans had once sent ships like Aurelus to explore new worlds, leaving behind colonies, research stations, and tools for survival. But many had fallen, destroyed by time, conflict, or mysterious cosmic events. "This is amazing," Terran whispered. "Humans really did go everywhere, and humans survived. That is why I chose you. You have the spark of survival, ingenuity, and courage." Terran felt a swelling pride. He had always thought of humans as fragile, often beaten by the harshness of the universe. But now he realized something. Humanity's greatest strength was not their technology. It was their mind, their will, and their ability to adapt. He had seen countless disasters, but humans had always found a way forward. Aurelus then guided him to a control chamber deep within the ship. Here, the interface became even more interactive. When Terran focused, the entire chamber responded. Holographic landscapes of planets appeared around him. He could study their environments, scan for life, and even see remnants of civilizations long gone. "This is incredible," he said. "I can see everything humans have done, and maybe even what they could do." "Exactly. But knowledge alone is not enough. You must act." Before Terran could respond, a warning flashed across the ship's interface. Energy signatures approaching from the northern dunes. He looked out through the ship's transparent panels. Far in the distance, he could see metallic shapes glinting under the sun. They moved with precision, almost too perfect, like living machines. "They're here," he whispered. Yes, they have sensed me, and now they will come for you as well. You must be ready. Terran's heart pounded. He had no weapons, no army, just himself and the ship. But a thought struck him. Humans had always faced worse odds and survived, and with Oralis, he had something no ordinary human ever had. A sentient ally. A ship that could think and act with him. He began experimenting with the ship's defensive capabilities. Fields of energy appeared along the hull, forming shields that could block physical and energy attacks. The desert itself became part of his arsenal. Holographic mirages, sand traps, and even gravitational distortions that could mislead intruders. Terran realized he was not just defending himself, he was turning the desert into a fortress. Hours passed as he trained and experimented. He learned how to manipulate the ship's systems to respond to his thoughts almost instantaneously. The more he interacted with Oralis, the more he felt their minds connecting. It was as if the ship could anticipate his decisions, and he could anticipate its responses. Together, they were more than human or machine alone. That night, Terran sat outside the ship, watching the desert stars. Oralis shared images of galaxies he had never seen, of worlds that humans had barely touched. The beauty of it left him speechless. And yet, he knew danger was coming. "You are ready for the first test, Terran." "What test?" he asked. "To survive, to protect, and to act. They are coming for me. And you must decide. Will you run, or will you fight?" Terran clenched his fists. He had survived countless harsh desert storms, scavenged through dangerous ruins, and faced hunger, thirst, and loneliness. Now, with Oralis, he had the chance to protect something far greater than himself. He would not run. The next morning, the metallic shapes advanced. Terran could see that these were not simple machines. They were sophisticated drones, designed to track and destroy intelligent ships. They moved with coordination and strategy. He focused, and Oralis responded. Energy fields rose around the ship. Sand swirled into blinding clouds, and holographic duplicates of the ship appeared across the dunes. The drones hesitated, confused by the illusions. Terran smiled. Humanity had always used intelligence to survive, not brute force. And now, he was proving that even in a desert against machines, humans could outthink any opponent. The drones adapted, adjusting their sensors and attempting to see through the illusions. But Terran was ready. He tapped into Oralis's systems deeper, predicting their movements, and guiding the sand and light to intercept them. One by one, the drones were misled, crashing into dunes or being trapped in energy fields. By midday, the last drone fell into a trap of shifting sand and light. Terran breathed heavily, but he felt exhilaration. He had faced a real threat and survived. But more importantly, he realized that humans, with courage, ingenuity, and allies like Oralis, could stand against almost any force. As the sun set, painting the desert in red and gold, Terran stood on a dune, looking at the horizon. The ship pulsed gently behind him, a silent companion. Together, they had survived the first test, but Terran knew this was only the beginning. The universe was vast, filled with unknown dangers, and he had barely scratched the surface. And in the quiet night, with the stars shining overhead, Terran felt something he had never felt before. Hope, purpose, and a sense of destiny. Humanity had survived storms, wars, and disasters. And now, it would survive the stars. The desert, once a place of isolation, had become a gateway to something far greater. Terran Kess was no longer just a scavenger. He was a protector, a pioneer, and a part of something extraordinary. And somewhere beyond the dunes, new threats stirred, sensing the reawakening of Oralis. The next challenge was coming, and Terran would be ready. The desert of Iridia 7 was calm at first light. But Terran Kess knew that calm was only a mask. From the north, the metallic shapes had returned, larger and faster this time. He had spent the night preparing with Oralis. learning to push the ship's systems further than ever. Holographic fields now covered entire stretches of dunes, and sandstorms could be created on command to hide their movements. But the enemy was intelligent; they would not be fooled twice. Terran stood on the deck, eyes scanning the horizon. "They're coming," he said, voice steady, though his heart raced. "Yes. And this time, they will not stop easily." Auralis's voice resonated through his mind. Calm, but serious. "You must act with both courage and strategy." Terran nodded. He thought back to every story of human survival he had ever heard. Explorers overcoming impossible odds. Inventors using their minds to defeat stronger enemies. Pioneers finding ways to endure where others failed. Now it was his turn. The drones appeared first, glinting in the morning sun. They moved in formation, scanning for life signs and for Auralis's energy signature. But Terran was ready. He focused, and the ship responded. Holographic copies of the ship appeared across the dunes, each one slightly different, shimmering and twisting. The drones hesitated, unsure which was real. Terran smiled. Humanity had always relied on cleverness, on trickery, and quick thinking, when strength alone was not enough. And now, with Auralis, he had a partner that could turn thought into action instantly. He manipulated the dunes with the ship's energy. Sand swirled into walls, spiraling towers, and shifting mazes. The drones, programmed to follow logic and patterns, began crashing into these illusions. Some were trapped in spiraling vortexes of sand and light, while others were lured into fields of energy that temporarily disabled them. But the enemy adapted. They began to communicate with each other, adjusting their strategy. Terran realized that brute force would not be enough. He needed to think like them, anticipate them, and outsmart them. Auralis pulsed as if in agreement. "You are ready to do more than defend. You must take control." Terran focused, extending his mind into the ship's systems. The desert became his canvas. Every dune, every rock, every grain of sand responded to him. Holographic images rose into the sky, projecting fake suns and false shadows. Drones flew into traps they could not see, crashing harmlessly into the sand. "This is incredible," Terran whispered, a mix of awe and excitement in his voice. "We're turning the desert itself into a weapon. Not just a weapon, a shield and a trap. Humans have always survived by using their environment." He thought of the stories he had heard as a child. Humans overcoming impossible storms, crossing barren lands, finding food and water where nothing existed, and surviving when all seemed lost. Now, he realized, it was not luck that had allowed humans to endure. It was ingenuity, courage, and persistence. And he carried that legacy forward. Hours passed. The drones were numerous, but Terran was faster, smarter, and more creative. He learned to anticipate their moves almost before they happened, creating traps and distractions that kept them off balance. The desert itself seemed to fight alongside him, reshaping and shifting according to his will. But as the sun reached its highest point, a larger threat appeared on the horizon. A massive machine, taller than any drone he had seen, advanced slowly, scanning for life. It was clearly the leader, coordinating the smaller drones. Its metal surface gleamed, and energy pulses ran along its limbs like veins. Terran felt a twinge of fear, but he did not back down. Humans had always faced larger, stronger enemies, and survived. And with Auralis, he was no longer alone. He focused, drawing energy from the ship. Holographic duplicates of the massive machine appeared, each one slightly out of phase with reality. The leader hesitated, confused by the illusions. Terran guided the smaller drones into the traps he had prepared. Sand and light twisted around them, disabling or immobilizing them one by one. The leader was strong, intelligent, but it could not predict Terran's creativity. He led it into a canyon of shifting dunes, where the walls rose and fell at his command. The machine stumbled, unbalanced by forces it could not comprehend. Terran used Auralis to amplify the gravitational pull in certain spots, tipping the machine and immobilizing it. For a moment, the desert was silent. Terran stood on a high dune, chest heaving, looking at the remaining drones, now scattered and confused. He realized they were retreating. The first wave of attackers had been defeated not by strength alone, but by the combination of human ingenuity and a sentient ally. Well done, Terran. You have learned quickly. But this is only the beginning. Oralis's voice was calm, almost proud. Terran wiped sweat from his forehead, feeling a mixture of relief and exhilaration. We did it, he said. We survived. Yes. And now you understand your potential. Humans are not weak. You endure, adapt, and overcome. That is why I chose you. Terran felt a surge of pride. He had always doubted himself, always thought humans were fragile in the vast universe. But now, he realized something profound. Humans were not just survivors. They were innovators, thinkers, and pioneers, and with courage and intellect, they could face anything. Even in a universe that seemed hostile. As the day turned into night, Terran and Oralis surveyed the desert. The dunes were quiet again, but the glow of the ship illuminated the sands in soft light. Terran knew more challenges awaited, forces far larger and smarter than these drones, but he also knew that he had the power, the knowledge, and the determination to face them. Over the next days, Terran trained even more, mastering the ship's systems and pushing the boundaries of its abilities. He learned to project holographic images across entire valleys, to manipulate gravity and light to hide or confuse enemies, and even to scan distant parts of the desert for threats before they arrived. He explored maps of distant star systems with Oralis, planning for a future where humans could reclaim lost colonies, rediscover ancient knowledge, and survive in a galaxy filled with dangers. Every time he touched the ship, every time he thought a command, he felt a connection, a harmony between human intuition and artificial consciousness. One evening, as Terran watched the stars, Oralis spoke softly. You have grown stronger. You have learned not only to survive, but to adapt and to lead. The universe is vast, and there are others who will challenge you. But I believe in humanity, and I believe in you. Terran smiled, feeling a warmth he had never known. I will not fail. Humans have always survived. And now, we can thrive. For the first time, he truly understood what it meant to be human. It was not strength alone, nor speed, nor endurance. It was the mind, the heart, and the will to act, even when the odds seemed impossible. And with Oralis by his side, he could face anything. Weeks passed. The desert of Iridia 7 became both a home and a training ground. Terran learned to anticipate threats, manipulate the environment, and merge his thinking with Oralis's intelligence. They were ready not just for survival, but for the challenges of a universe that would test them in ways they could not yet imagine. And then one night, under a sky filled with stars, Terran felt a signal, a distant presence moving through space, sensing Oralis. It was larger, stronger, and more organized than anything he had faced. Yet, he did not panic. He had learned that humans, with their ingenuity and courage, could stand against forces far greater than themselves. Are we ready? He asked Oralis. We are ready. Humanity endures. Humanity adapts. And humanity will prevail. Terran took a deep breath, feeling the weight of responsibility and the thrill of purpose. He was no longer just a scavenger of the desert. He was a pioneer, a protector, and a symbol of human potential. The desert wind swept over the dunes, carrying the whispers of ancient sands and the promise of the stars. And Terran Kess, with Oralis by his side, stepped forward into a future filled with unknown challenges, endless possibilities, and the certainty that humanity would not only survive, but rise. As the distant lights of approaching threats glimmered on the horizon, Terran smiled. The universe was vast, the dangers real, but the human spirit was stronger. And together, he and Oralis would show that humans could overcome anything, anywhere, at any time. The adventure had only just begun.